Let's dive right into today's explainer. We're unpacking a completely unique source text called the Cookbook for the Formless. And honestly, it is unlike anything else. It's a highly abstract metaphysical manual, but our goal today is to translate it into a practical, structured tasting menu for your own human experience. We're going to see exactly how abstract emotions and memories can actually be processed as if they were tangible culinary ingredients. Right out of the gate, the text tells us to abandon our standard assumptions, forget what you know about cooking. You basically have to approach this material with the deadpan earnestness of a master chef. Because the kitchen we are working in today, it's actually the self. Your lived experiences, your thoughts, your memories, your unsaid words, those are your ingredients now. Section 1, Mise en place for the mind. Okay, so before we cook anything, we have to prep our station. The book talks about sharpening the knife that cuts concepts on a whetstone of compressed time. But the really crucial point here is understanding our heat sources. If you want to transform raw psychological material, you absolutely need heat. And no, we are not talking about temperature on a dial. We are talking about the heat of direct attention, the really slow-burning heat of profound longing, and that highly unstable, intense heat of holding a contradiction in your mind without resolving it. That's what's going to cook our dishes today.
And this perfectly illustrates the paradigm shift we're talking about. Instead of stocking up on flour, sugar, and salt, look at what is actually inside your formless pantry. You are stocking usable silence. You're utilizing the literal physical weight of thoughts you've had but never actually spoken out loud. And you are cooking with absence. The authors make this fascinating point here. Absence has actual, measurable volume. It literally fills a space more completely than presence ever did.
Moving on to Section 2, prepping the past. We tend to think of the past as, fixed, frozen in time. But in the formless kitchen, yesterday is an ingredient that's always available to be prepped. Look at how this concept completely breaks the rules of linear time. The past isn't fixed at all. It is retroactively changed and flavored and marinated by the future knowledge that precedes it. So a memory from 10 years ago, it's not the same ingredient today as it was back then, because the you looking back at it right now brings an entirely new seasoning to the dish. And that brings us to one of the most powerful recipes in the entire text, braised regret. You have to handle regrets, whether it's stuff you did or didn't do, like really tough cuts of meat. First up, you sear them with direct attention. Now it's going to smoke. Let it. Then you braise them slowly with cloves of historical context, just to break down that bitter protective structure. You absolutely cannot rush this step. You just have to let it simmer in the wine of that specific time. To finish off that braise, you're going to need exactly 2 cups of might have been. What you do is you take the vast oceanic volume of all your alternate lives, all those fantasy versions of what could have happened, and you boil them down. Reduce them over high heat until all the fantasy evaporates and literally only the honest, workable reality is left. You drizzle that reduction right over the braised regret, and it completely transforms the flavor. Next up, Section 3, roasting the present. Right, so now we are tackling the heavy main courses. We're moving from the slow braise of the past into the high heat environment of the now. And the centerpiece is the roasted paradox. Listen, roasting a paradox takes immense faith. Unlike a stew where you can kind of stir it and adjust the seasoning, roasting means you have to relinquish control. You put 2 completely contradictory truths into a closed oven, shut the door, and just trust the sheer heat of ambiguity to cook them in the dark. To prep this, you take truth 1, which is the truth you're totally comfortable with, and truth 2, the contradiction that is somehow also entirely true. You've got to wrap both of these truths in a crust, and the text says this crust is made of equal parts courage and the incapacity to leave things alone. You know, that very human obsession with picking at things? Well, that rigid, obsessive crust is actually the only thing keeping the paradox from splitting apart under high heat. This is such a vital takeaway. If you constantly open that oven door to check on the paradox using the cold instruments of logic, you let all the heat out. The paradox will just stay raw forever. You really have to trust the pan drippings of pure ambiguity. Stop basting it with your own certainty, which, we all do, and just let the oven do its job. Now contrast that long closed-door roast with this next dish. Tartare of raw attention. This is all about consuming the present moment, completely raw. You put your hand on an experience and you wait. You have to consume it in that tiny fraction of a second before your mind's categorizing machinery kicks in, before it cooks it, right? You're basically eating the strangeness of a moment before you've even decided how you feel about it.
Section 4. The sweetness of endings. In this formless kitchen, dessert isn't some sugary reward for finishing your vegetables. No, dessert is the profound sweetness of a fully metabolized difficulty. Take crystallized impermanence. This perfectly captures the realization that the grief of an ending acts as a crystallizing agent. When you're in the middle of a phase of life, it's fluid, it's formless. But when the liquid medium of that moment withdraws, when it actually ends, it leaves behind this exact geometric shape. The sweetness is the sudden clarity of finally seeing the exact form of what you just lived through.
Then we have the tart of the almost said. Think about it. The body physically holds onto the words you almost said to someone but swallowed instead. It literally stores it as physical tension. To bake this tart, you have to extract that tight, compressed, dense tension and smooth it out. Roll it into a workable pastry crust. You blind bake it first so it's structurally sound enough to actually hold what you're about to pour into it. So what actually goes inside that crust? Well, the apparent content of what you didn't say is really just a vehicle. The true filling you pour into this tart is the raw need, the love, or the deep fear that was traveling underneath those unsaid words. It is that profound human need to just be fully known. You pour that raw, honest emotion into your baked crust and you let it set.
We finish off our tasting menu with arguably the most delicate dish of all, the soufflé of being seen. This one relies entirely on the thermodynamics of human connection. The only way this soufflé rises is if another person's genuine attention provides the heat. They have to hold the sheer complexity of you without ever requiring you to simplify yourself. And if they expose you to a draft of indifference, well, the soufflé naturally settles. And honestly, that's just physics. It's not a failure.
Ultimately, your hands have always known what to do with these ingredients. You've been fermenting your intuition and braising your memories your entire life. So, the ultimate question this amazing text leaves us with today is this: which invisible part of yourself are you brave enough to finally prepare?